Hello everyone, in this video I will talk about my hot takes about each Soulsborne game. In case you got offended by my video, all I can say is...
Oh no! Anyway,
Okay, let's begin with Demon's Souls. My hot take about this game is that Demon's Souls is straight up a bad game. Not a bullshit such as, no you don't understand, this game is bad by from certain standard, but by other games standard it's good. Nah, fuck this dumb bullshit. I finished this game twice. First time on PlayStation 3 and the other time on PlayStation 5. And in the end, my thoughts always were negative about this game. Demon's Souls is straight up a bad game. There is simply nothing that you can like about Demon's Souls. Besides very cool graphic which killed the original game's entire atmosphere. Bosses are absolutely uninteresting and very dumb. They aren't even a boss fight. They are just a final answer to this very obvious gimmick and you will win this fight. And the worst thing is the fact that some of these bosses have 3 at best different moves and half of the time you just look how they are straight up spamming the same move over and over. Say hello to Penetrator and Judicator who spam the same move until you die. Weapon variety is non-existing. This game has insane and sometimes just unjustifiable runback to bosses and to some shortcuts also for some reason. And because of that you are afraid of everything. Because you know that if you die even once, you have to run a brutal marathon over and over. Combat system of this game is extremely slow and janky. Locations are cool, but I kinda had no interest in exploring them. Because I don't want to run a fucking marathon each time someone backshots me. In locations you are getting jumped over and over by some weak mobs, or you have to fight some strong dudes that can straight up one-shot you. The lore and plot of this game ironically feels like a demo version of Dark Souls 1. No, the entire game feels like a demo version of Dark Souls 1. There is simply nothing to like about Demon's Souls. The only reason to play this game is to see how some bosses, locations, weapons, NPC, mobs and other stuff looked in their original form. Other than being a museum exhibit for Souls players, this game has literally nothing good to offer besides a good graphic. Dark Souls 1. With Dark Souls 1 there are a few things that I want to add on this list, but after thinking for a while I think that I will add the how to say it properly. No teleport in this game until Ocean Smog, I would say. Yes, I know that most locations are incredibly well connected to each other, and because of that the world feels alive, and it's very interesting to explore locations, simply because you are curious where you will find yourself if you go this way. But on the other hand, from 12 hours of gameplay, I ironically spent 5 of it going front and backward over and over. You clear the location? Well, sorry, but you need to go to the other side of the map on foot every single time. Yeah, after Ornate Smoke you can teleport, but A, it won't justify me running a marathon over and over for the half of the game. And secondly, you can't teleport on any bonfire. Why is this a problem? Well, I remember one particular moment that made me super rage, and also a few quick examples. Once I fought Gwendolyn, and when he killed me, I had no way to access his bonfire, and also because this thing was down, I couldn't just use elevator and quickly go to him. Each time I died, I had to run from the Anor Londo all the way to elevator, and this made me rage so goddamn hard. The other best example is Blighttown. You kill the location, you kill the boss, cool, now be a good boy and go back to Andre on your foot. I am replaying Dark Souls 1 right now, and I want to play with Claymore. I couldn't access this weapon because of this dumb dragon, and instead I decided to get Zweihander. In order to get it, I had to run from Andre to this sword, and then again had to run to Andre on my foot. And now the very best examples. Let's imagine you got cursed in depths. You have half of your health removed. In order to restore your health, you have to run on your foot from the depths to a random ass merchant and then again run in depths on your your food. Or let's take my fight against Quelag. Per hit I am doing a 50 fucking damage. I have objectively weak weapon. I didn't both update materials from Andre, and I can quickly update my other weapons. And in the end I have two choices. Either mash my hand on a wall until it breaks, or leave Blighttown, go to Andre, buy and update new weapon, and then again run to her on my foot. And believe it or no, you will break a wall, will headbutt faster than you will come back from Andre on your foot. Dark Souls 1 would be better if you could teleport anytime you wanted on any bonfire, simply because half of the game you are just running on your foot like a madman. Dark Souls 2. My hot take about Dark Souls 2 is that people who say Dark Souls 2 has the worst bosses among all Souls game are straight up dumb. Now let me explain. Let's take Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2 and Demon Souls. Let's take top 3 best bosses from each of these games. From Demon Souls it's Alant, Penetrator and Lichmonger. From Dark Souls 1 it's Manus, Artorias and either Quelag or Sentry Guard. From Dark Souls 2 it's Fume Knight, Sir Alon and either Dark Lurker or Ivory King. Now tell me without lies which of them are objectively better. I think the answer to it is very obvious, don't you think? As a boss fight, Dark Souls 2 bosses are just straight up better than Dark Souls 1 and Demon Souls bosses. Okay, fuck it. Let's count all somewhat decent and good bosses from each of these games. In Demon Souls it's just Alant, from Dark Souls 1 it's Manus, Artorias, Guardian, Quelag, and maybe just maybe Gwyn and Calamite. Now the bosses from Dark Souls 2. Yeah, as you could see, there are much more interesting bosses in Dark Souls 2 than in these two games. You might say something like, these bosses are so easy, how can anyone take them seriously? Well, A. I killed every single Dark Souls 1 bosses on my first or at worst on my second try besides these 3 bosses. And also, most Dark Souls 1 bosses are objectively much weaker than, for example, Smelter Demon from Dark Souls 2. And B. Many people either don't realize or ignore one very oopsie moment about Dark Souls 2 in general. The reason why Dark Souls 2 bosses are so easy for most people is not that they have poor moveset or because of their low max health or because of their low amount of damage. No, it's because Dark Souls 2 has straight up broken level up system, and because of that, even without grinding, you by default are over level than most bosses, besides a few exceptions. Also, some moments such as many consumables that buffs you or makes you straight up overpowered, you can get a weapon at max level extremely fast, merchants sell many strong weapons, and many more moments. And this all makes boss fights much easier than it should be. But if we talk objectively, and if you look at their moveset, most Dark Souls 2 bosses are no worse, and even better than bosses like Manus and Artorias, who many people praise nearly 24/7. Also, a fun fact from me, if I remember correctly, either in Augur of Darkness or the Fire Fates mod, or in some other mod, I don't remember exactly, modders fixed level up cost and bosses were normal, simply because you couldn't just two-shot these poor bosses because you were way the fuck over level for them. So yeah, now let's move to Bloodborne. I know that many people won't agree with it, but I will say it anyway. Most Bloodborne fans like this game just because today, average person is non-stop jerking himself on gothic theme. Well, let's say how it is. On gothic girls. I said about this many times, and I will say this as many times as it takes. If it wasn't for Bloodborne's cool cosmos and gothic style atmosphere, Bloodborne won't be nearly as popular and beloved as it is right now. No, really, Bloodborne loses in almost everything to most Souls games, besides combat speed of course. Bosses are just absolutely helpless. Yeah, they are objectively much faster, they have more complex moveset, they have another phase, but Bloodborne still has stupidly high amount of punching bag bosses who die faster than they can do anything. And even if we ignore that, just like we ignore that in Dark Souls 2, fun-wise, most Bloodborne bosses are just nearly half of the game you grind for heals, because for some dumb reason, they are consumables. Chalices are just pure garbage, and no one will prove to me it otherwise. Locations look nearly identical. Weapons aren't really that useful. Yeah, they look cool and are realistically saying two completely different weapons with completely different moveset, which in theory is very cool, but honestly, average Bloodborne weapon is just not worthy. Plot and story sometimes is very interesting, I won't deny that, but most of the time, the story of this game is a hardcore alien sex fetish, and no, it's not a joke. I am telling you this without exaggeration. I have a full video about strange obsession with Bloodborne. If you want, you can check it. I don't want to repeat everything I said in this video. If you want, you can check it. And also another hot take. People who scream at Bloodborne is a remaster will never even once play this remaster. Dark Souls 3. Most people to this day are still bitching about Dark Souls 3 being a linear game. And despite the fact it's true and it's undeniable, I don't agree with the take that Dark Souls 3 being a linear game make this game boring or somehow bad. I know I will shock you, but Dark Souls 3 being a linear game is a good thing. Wanna know why? Well, let's take Elden Ring. This game is open world. This game gives you a huge freedom to go anywhere you want, and you of course go wherever you want. And what you get when you fight a Remembrance boss or any other boss after dying for a while? Yep, oops, I accidentally one-shot this boss and I ruined my encounter with him. Say hello to bosses like Radan, Relana, Radagon's Wolf, and Godric. If you explore this open world even for a bit, like even slightly, you will one-fart most of the bosses. But in Dark Souls 3, because the game prevents you to go anywhere you want as hard as it can, it gives you a balanced and fair encounters with bosses. After you kill a ward, you will meet 3, which is a bit harder than a ward. Then you meet Crystal Sage, then a Beast Watcher, then either Volnir or Old Demon King. And then you visit Deacons of the Deep. The boss's difficulty goes up organically. You won't fight, for example, Abyss Watchers against whom you do a solid amount of damage while taking a reasonable amount of damage, and after that 2 seconds later you will fight a boss with the same stats as Nameless King. If game devs want you to fight the Pontiff before Champ Gandir, you will fight Pontiff before Champion Gandir. The more you play, the more this game wants you to slowly but surely level up weapons, get more skilled and other stuff, and this all feels organic, unlike Elden Ring, in which you accidentally went in the wrong direction and got feasted in 2 seconds, or accidentally two-shot at the bosses because you were way too over level. Yes, in this game, just like in Dark Souls 1 or Elden Ring, you can also get OP in early game, and you can also get your weapon at plus 10 even before you kill a ward. But it's much easier to say than done, because in order to do that, you have to kill Dancer and Elite Lothric Knights, which is nearly impossible to do as a low level player, especially on your first playthrough. Dark Souls 3 being a linear game is a very good thing, and people who complain that the game doesn't give them a huge freedom are the same people who like to two-shot bosses while they are super duper over level for them. Sekiro. Oof, I have so many things to say about Sekiro, starting with combat arts and ending with this absolutely retarded myth about Sekiro being way too hard. But in the end I will choose Sekiro's combat system itself. My hot take is not that Sekiro has uninteresting or boring combat, it's more the fact that Sekiro has a close to zero variety of attacks. In Sekiro, most of the time you are just mashing parry and hit button to win. Yeah, you can use arm tools and combat arts, but A, they are extremely situational, and B, name me one combo that doesn't involve Sakura dance. Not 3, not two, at least one combo. I always knew that Sekiro as a playable character is extremely castrated version of Raiden from Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. And also I said many times that Sekiro's combat system would be much better if this game was a full hack and slash game like Devil May Cry or first 3 God of War games, and not a random weird Metal Gear Rising Revengeance clone. Will absolutely uses combat arts and situation arm tools. For a while I had no real proof of that, but now I have a proof that Sekiro would be better as a hack and slash game. Let's talk about Stellar Blade for a bit. Both Sekiro and Stellar Blade have a similar mechanic, parry bosses over and over until you feel their posture bar. But the main difference is that if in Sekiro you had extremely castrated moveset, in Stellar Blade you are allowed to use some wombo combos. You have a burst and battle skill energies, and also you can do damage to bosses after parrying them for a while. Yes, Stellar Blade's combat has a few oopsie moments, on which I will talk in my upcoming video, but a fact is a fact. Stellar Blade is a proof that Sekiro's combat system is very repetitive, and if you don't count its visual and coolness, it's below average at best. Elden Ring. Well, if you watch my videos for a while, you know my hot take about Elden Ring. This game's open world is pure garbage and it simply doesn't work in a Souls game. I am not calling locations like Mesmer's Castle, Raya Lucaria, Leyndell, and other legacy dungeons garbage. I call locations like Kaelid, Limgrave, Swamp Area next to Raya Lucaria, Mountain Top of the Giants, and nearly all locations in DLC pure garbage. These locations' entire purpose is to simply waste your time. And not only that, if you think about it, what are the main complainings that a normal Souls player have towards Elden Ring? Infinity boss reuses, stupidly high damage and stats for late game bosses who can one-shot you anytime they want while you barely tickle them, non-existing weapon variety that works only if you use the almighty trust me bro source, this weapon is in early and in mid game, you can accidentally be a bit over level and nearly two-shot most bosses, and the fact you spend way too much time on your dumb horse. I am telling you without any joke, nearly all Elden Ring's problems could be avoided if this game was a bit bigger than Dark Souls 3, and not another your average half-empty boring ass open world game that simply can't work in a Souls game. I have a full video about Elden Ring's open world and why it sucks ass. If you want you can check it, but please at least try to listen to me and don't type a random ass absolutely retarded stuff just to justify your favorite game. Well, that's pretty much it. If you like my video, press something under it. Willis, I will say bye bye to you and I will see you next time.